For the longest time, right, a company's whole sustainability story was basically boiled down to one thing, an ESG scorecard. It was like this shiny report card for everyone to look at. But here's the thing. What happens when that A grade you're so proud of does absolutely nothing to stop your factory from flooding? Yeah. There's this quiet but super important shift happening right now, moving us away from just looking at old grades and towards actually predicting future storms. So let's get into what's really going on here.
And this quote, man, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? This is the exact problem, the disconnect that's probably causing some serious sleepless nights in boardrooms all over the place. I mean, think about it. A high ESG rating looks amazing in a press release, right? But it means nothing when a real-world flood shuts down your factory or a massive heat wave just completely cripples your supply chain.
And you know, it's that exact disconnect that's forcing this massive evolution. Climate volatility isn't some far-off thing anymore. It's the new normal. So naturally, companies are scrambling to find tools that do more than just tell them what they did last year. They need something that helps them actually, navigate what's coming.
So let's back up a little. How did we get here in the first place? Well, for the better part of a decade, there was really only one game in town. One tool that was king of the hill, the ESG Scorecard. It was, without a doubt, the #1 way companies measured and talked about their sustainability.
Okay, so what is the scorecard really? The easiest way to think about it is like a GPA, but for a corporation. It looks at everything a company has done in the past, all its official policies, everything it said publicly, and then it crunches all of that down into one single standardized score. And for a long, long time, that was it. That was the shorthand for figuring out if a company was being responsible.
And look, to be fair, when they were first created, their purpose made a lot of sense. They were built for a time when the big focus was on disclosure and reputation, giving investors a really simple way to compare company A against company B. But, and this is a big but, the world has changed. The risks we're all facing now, they've changed dramatically.
And that right there brings us to the heart of the problem. The very system that was designed to give us all this clarity is now, well, it's showing some pretty serious blind spots, especially when you put it up against the kind of urgent, unpredictable climate challenges we're seeing today.
So let's really unpack these blind spots, okay? First off, scorecards are, by their very nature, backward-looking. They're awesome at telling you what happened yesterday, but they're terrible at telling you what's going to happen tomorrow. They also take all this complex, messy reality and just cram it into a single number, and that can hide some massive risks. You can have a company with a fantastic overall score, but that one little number won't tell you that their most important factory is sitting right in the middle of a 100-year floodplain. It's just totally disconnected from what's happening on the ground in real time.
And this question, right here, this is what it all boils down to. This is the thing that's keeping operations managers and CFOs awake at night. Seriously, what good is a high score, that trophy sitting on the shelf, if your entire supply chain is totally exposed to the next big storm? Yeah, a high score feels good, but it offers you absolutely zero protection when disaster actually hits.
Okay, so in response to all these blind spots, a new kind of solution is starting to show up, and it's built on a totally different way of thinking. This is where the climate risk dashboard comes into play.
A dashboard is a completely different animal. It's not static, it's dynamic, it's not looking back, it's looking forward. So instead of just reading through old company policies, it's actively mapping future climate hazards. We're talking floods, heat waves, water scarcity, you name it, and it's mapping them directly onto a company's most important assets, their key suppliers, their most critical business processes. And this is really the key takeaway here. We are not just talking about a new kind of report. This is a fundamental, ground-up shift in business intelligence itself. It's about moving away from just describing what already happened and moving toward actively predicting what's coming next. And then, and this is the important part, embedding that intelligence right into the very core of how the business operates. Let's dig a little deeper into that philosophical divide, because it really all comes down to the one central question that each of these tools is trying to answer. So first up, you've got the scorecard. With its intense focus on past performance and reputation, it's basically asking one single backward-looking question. And that question is, how sustainable are we? See? It's a retrospective question. It's all about looking in the rearview mirror and grading yourself on what you've already done. And look, that's not totally useless, but on its own, it's dangerously incomplete.
The dashboard, on the other hand, it's not looking in the rearview mirror at all. It's looking straight through the windshield at the road ahead. And it's asking you a much more immediate
and let's be honest, a much more critical question for just staying in business.
The dashboard asks, where will climate disrupt us next, and what is it going to cost? You can just feel the difference in that question, can't you? It's predictive, it's specific, and it's tied directly to the financial health of the company. This is the kind of question that doesn't just go to the sustainability team. It lands squarely on the desk of the risk manager, the CEO, and the CFO.
So let's just put them right next to each other for a second. With scorecards, the focus is all on past performance. With dashboards, it's all about getting ahead of future disruption. The data you're using shifts from old, historical reports to predictive models and real-time data. The output isn't a single score anymore, it's a living, breathing map of your company's biggest vulnerabilities. And maybe most important of all, the entire purpose changes. It goes from being a PR or communications exercise to being a tool for making tough, critical, real-time decisions.
But, okay, that's the theory. What does this actually look like in the real world? Let's walk through a quick example to see how this new way of thinking actually plays out.
So imagine you've got this big global manufacturer, and they've got a top-tier ESG score. On paper, they look perfect. But then they plug their operations into a climate risk dashboard. And it tells a totally different and, honestly, a pretty terrifying story. The dashboard immediately flags that several of their most critical suppliers are located in areas that are now considered high-risk flood zones. Then the financial models attached to it actually put a number on that risk, showing a potential multi-million-dollar hit to their revenue. So armed with this new, specific intelligence, what do? They act. They start diversifying their suppliers, they invest in resilience, and they manage to completely sidestep a crisis that the old scorecard would never, ever have seen coming.
Now, of course, making this shift, it's not exactly easy. It means you've got to wrestle with really complex data. You have to get comfortable thinking in terms of probabilities, not certainties. And you've got to face some pretty uncomfortable truths about where your business is actually vulnerable. It's a real balancing act, right? You have to trust this powerful new technology, but at the same time, you can't forget that human judgment is still absolutely essential.
All right, so let's zoom out for the big picture. What does all of this really mean for the future of business intelligence? Where is this train headed?
This table here is actually a fantastic litmus test for figuring out how mature a company is on this stuff. If you really want to know how seriously they take climate risk, just ask a simple question. Who's actually using the ESG data? If the answer is mainly the sustainability teams and investor relations, well, they're probably still stuck in that old reporting-focused scorecard phase. But if you find out it's the operations, finance, and risk teams, the people on the front lines who are living and breathing this data every single day, then you know that company has made the leap. They're in the dashboard phase. They're not just reporting on risk anymore. They're actively engineering their business for resilience.
Now let's be super clear about something. Scorecards aren't just going to disappear overnight. They'll still have a role to play, but that role is changing. Think of them more like secondary indicators, mostly for managing reputation. They just won't be the main tool that drives the big, critical, strategic decisions about the company's future. Not anymore.
And really, this is the ultimate takeaway. The future isn't going to belong to the companies that have the highest score on a report card. It's going to belong to the ones who treat ESG not as some number to optimize for a press release, but as a critical operating system that you have to engineer for resilience. That's the final, crucial shift we're seeing, moving away from just chasing a number and toward building a business that can actually withstand whatever storms are on the horizon.